Hey folks, how you doing out there? Quick drink and a wink info review. I hope my internet isn't too slow and this isn't going to work today. Seems like it was just acting up a little bit just now. Uh, Today we're not going to stay here long. We're going to talk about a whiskey. This is an info review redo. Well, notice my clever titling if Facebook publishes it. We're going to talk about an Indian whiskey. Okay, I don't talk about. Actually, I don't do a whole lot of world whiskey. Usually, we consider the different regions of Scotch whiskey. I guess if I say I'm doing Scotland, I guess everything's world whiskey, right? But generally these days in whiskey, we talk about Canada, we talk about the United States, we talk about Scotland, we talk about Ireland, and everything else is maybe a second class. Japanese whiskey has obviously come up in quality and name and all that kind of stuff, but these other areas will pop up with these interesting whiskeys. Indian whiskey is nothing new, but this Indri, which is called the Trini 3-Wood, came out a few years ago, and it really caught particularly the Scotch world, by storm. And nowadays, since the United States seems like they want to be just screwing up everything, and who knows what you're going to do with prices when it comes to Scotch whiskey, I'm going to give you a bottle here, a recommended bottle, that is exactly the same price as it was when it came out. This is a MSRP $60 bottle of whiskey. Might sound a little high, but I'm going to tell you why that is really great. All the other, I've been doing some more looking in the last couple of days at whiskey prices, and they are creeping up. Not all, but some. Okay, so especially the big name brands, what they did, they were clever enough to get a lot of the stuff into the United States before the tariffs hit, and you're probably going to be paying that tariff price, whether they stick around or not, or they paid it on it, they'll end up paying for it anyway. That's how the big companies do it. This is not a big company. This I became familiar with this because this became the darling of all the kind of, especially single malt Scotch, or I should just say Scotch, but Scotch whiskey enthusiasts and influencers. Whiskey Advocate gave this a real high score. Dramface, which is it's a great name for a website, but they have like kind of like it's a web page, but it's also a kind of a blog, and they also do some podcasting. Dramface gave this a very high score, recommended. At Whiskey Advocate said this was a must-buy at its price tag. Roy from Aquavit, which is connected with Roy Duff, liked this a lot. Ralphie, probably the world's most his videos. I mean, he's got like 1,000 videos. Maybe he doesn't have quite that much, but he has tons of videos. The biggest whiskey influencer, or at least Scotch whiskey YouTuber in the world, loved this. So let me tell you a little bit more about it. The Indri, first of all, the first thing I like about it is if you're going to do a video, this is one of the few whiskeys that the bottle and the packaging is so tall that you don't have to put it up on a riser or anything like that. So let me take it out. When we take it out, we see this very nice, rich, dark color, and you're like, okay, well, it's Indian whiskey. I have no ideas. Has this been colored? Read that? No added color. So this is the natural color. Now, we also look around and we say, okay, what else do we got here? Well, let me tell you. The Trini 3-Wood is a non-chill filtered, natural colored Indian whiskey, bottled at 46%. The 3-Wood comes from, and even the bottling has an interesting scent. I know it's not from the whiskey. A little bit like incense, a little bit like, it's interesting. This might have been done with like maybe some natural materials that are actually aging a little bit in there. Cool. Let's see what we got here. The 5 golden senses, Indriya: smell, taste, touch, sight, sound. But more about the whiskey. This has been aged. The 3-Wood comes from, it's aged in 3 different types of casks and then blended. First fill bourbon, love it. Ex-French wine, it always will give you a little bit of that champagne vibe, but crisp, sweet vibe, and then PX sherry, which is going to give you those more red fruits and grapes and raisins and that kind of flavor. There you go. The other thing that's interesting, there is no age statement. But this is supposedly the distillery is at the base of the Himalayas, and because of the climate where that is located, they say that I haven't opened this in a year. That's why I kind of that it really doesn't do much. But if the cork, sometimes if you're opening a bottle you haven't opened for a long time, and you just do that little dip that I did so the cork gets wet, then when you're pulling out, the cork is a little more lubricated. You don't run the risk of breaking off that cork. Although I've certainly done that a few times. So that's what the idea is. It's a no age statement. It's said it's rumored to be about 3 or 4 years, but this is one of these things where in this climate, in these barrels, they might be aging faster. What else do they tell me? Everything here is just straight up. There's no messing around. This is by the Piccadilly, okay, distillery, okay, or Piccadilly Argo Industries Limited. It is imported by Impex. They import a lot of cool stuff. And this bottle was manufactured, I guess that would mean bottled and ready to go, March of 2022. So we've had it a little while, and we've enjoyed it. I haven't drank it a whole lot, okay? That's weird. On the nose, you'd be hard-pressed to note that this isn't a single malt Scotch, and it's using all the same, obviously single malt means it's got to be all 100% malted barley. Smells like Scotch, but there is something I'm guessing is coming from maybe the PX cask or something. There's a little bit of banana note, obviously barley, a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of caramel. It's really nice. I didn't read the tasting notes. Black tea, sure. Caramelized pineapple. You know what? Yes. Yeah, caramelized something. There's a nice little grill hint. It's not overly floral, but there's some notes there on the taste. This just gets better and better every time I have it. I think I'm going to have a little more of it tonight. Oh, boy. They just knocked this out of the park. I think the first couple of times I had it, it was still kind of a relatively new bottle. And, whiskey doesn't age in the bottle. But it seems like maybe the things have settled down a little bit. This is just really, really tasty. Let me go through again and give you some notes on the taste. In the beginning, it's mostly gentle spice and wood characteristics. That's what we're saying. I would say more. Kind of the nose pops through in the very beginning of the taste. Citrus and a little bit of pineapple, like you mentioned. As it goes through, it gets a little leatherier, more like leather. That taste. The caramel, kind of burnt caramel, comes through a little bit more. And then we're getting into charred something, which is obviously coming from the PX cask. It does have a little bit of that winey, tannic feel. On the end, boy, it's very hard to describe what this is. Corn husk, which is coming from, well, I mean, we're talking about 3 different types of oak. Yeah. Fruity. I say this is going to be weird because there's obviously no corn in this, but kind of like when you eat cornflakes and there's that kind of drying element when you're you're chewing it, and maybe especially when it's still dry, or if you eat like dry cornflakes, there is this drying element in the back of your throat. That's what's happening here, and I love it. What else can I tell you about this? For one, if there's a maybe I can't remember the other brand of Indian whiskey, but look for this one. I have seen this oddly enough here in Chicago in downtown 7-Eleven, not the one that's really close to. There's the two 7-Elevens downtown that are really close to each other. The one that you would walk to after a gig at Andy's is not the one I'm talking about. The one just a couple blocks north, maybe just one block. I remember had this. It's not on Hubbard, but it's on. I can't remember. Maybe it is Hubbard. Anyway, this is not that hard to find, and I am telling you, you need to go out there. On the end, a little bit of cigar leaf. Raisin, but not sweet. Just plain. These guys. Nuttiness. A little bit of a walnut flavor. Actually, we had some walnuts here too. From the market. Boy, yeah. It's. This is what's surprising. When I can have a taste and I give you like 4 sets of notes. Or like 4 little notes. That's interesting whiskey. This is very complex, not over the top. I'm gonna have to do it again. On the front, a leathery quality, grapes. As you go through, a little bit of floral, citrus, but that leathery note still stays under there. Then on the end, more straw, more corn husk, more banana peel, maybe a little bit. Not just saying sour, it's just that's where the sweetness kind of goes away. And I would say the only thing is, I'm not going to say it's a weak finish or a short finish. It's a little bit, this is where I would probably say, I can tell this isn't a Scotch whiskey. I don't know why. I don't know if they're using different yeasts. I don't know if the quickened aging because of the locale is making a difference, but it tastes the least like single malt Scotch in the finish, and that's where I would, if I was doing a blind and I only got the first 2 parts of it, the nose and the taste, I don't know that I could pick it. That is not to say that this isn't unique in terms of whiskeys. It's just really great. Indri, Trini 3-wood. Okay, so Indri is actually the distillery. I got kind of confused. Indri is the distillery. Piccadilly is the parent company. Okay, and the 3-wood is this bottling. I think they have a couple of releases now, and there are also some kind of fancier, more aged, interesting cask finishing types of bottlings. But you don't need that. This is a $60 bottle of whiskey, and these days, this is priced correctly. All right. I was going to wholeheartedly say, if you're a single malt Scotch fan, there's no smoke or peat in this, by the way. But if you're a single malt Scotch fan, and I wouldn't say point blank Macallan fans. If you like some of, because it's not so, it's not a sherry bomb, even though it kind of looks like it, right? Okay. Yeah, this just reminds the flavor. First full bourbon, check. Okay, sherry cask, check. I think the French wine cask actually gives this in part of the biggest amount of variance. And if you like those kinds of flavors in your whiskeys, if you like Nectar d'Or by Glenmorangie, if you like even some of the interesting ones in the cheaper line like Glenmorangie, has some different ones. If you like port finish, you might like this one too. Indri 3-wood. I tell you, Trini 3-wood. It's just delicious. The label, it's not printed on like on the label. It was stamped on. Really interesting product. Check it out. You also get this humongous. It's the only thing. This is a top shelf whiskey because it's the only place it'll fit. All right. We'll see you later, folks. I just wanted to come out and I had a little free moments. Michelle and I just had dinner, So we was like, oh, you know what? Let me talk about this whiskey because I just kind of started thinking about it today. I was like, oh, American whiskey right now is so expensive. Let me give you something a little more. Let's just say, like I said, $60 is not nothing to sneeze at. But if you're looking at a whiskey and you're looking at an alternative to get a single malt Scotch whiskey, I could highly recommend this Indian whiskey. All right, folks. We'll see you later. I don't got anything to say that's funny right now. I'm just going to enjoy some whiskey and try to ignore the bad stuff.